Hey, Beau! Why do other people's voices influence us so much, both in positive and negative ways?
So, this is a really interesting question, I find, uh, because it really speaks directly to what this current adventure is on, which is music and sound in general. So, why is the human voice, why are we so sensitive to the human voice? In the same way, we're very sensitive to the human face. And it's because we evolved to be dependent on others. We are inherently social. To not be social during evolution was to die, it was a death sentence. So during evolution, if you were, which is why this idea of being independent of a self made person is such a silly idea. You are never independent. We affect and are affected by others. In a relationship, you are necessarily dependent. Leaving aside codependency or interdependency, we are dependent on others for our mood, for our sheer survival. Right? You can never not be dependent. And so other people are tremendous sources of your future well being. And the reason is because, again, this dependence we have on others. And one of our greatest fears is uncertainty. Well, other people are huge sources of your future certainty or your future uncertainty. And what your brain is doing is it's listening to what people say, right? The information they're providing, but not just what they say, how they say it, the tonality of what they're saying. Because what you're really looking for is not just the words that people use, because I mean, we all know what we're supposed to say, right? Most of us, right? So saying the right thing is a fairly easy thing to do. Far more difficult, in some sense, is to actually be aligned in not just what you say, but why you're saying it, and then the actions that result. Because what your brain's trying to do is to predict what someone else is going to actually do given the words they're saying. And one of the ways you're going to be able to predict that accurately is through their tonality, through whether they're actually authentic in their words rather than just, telling lies. So your brain is very sensitive to detecting lying, though we're not necessarily very good at it. And what's fascinating is there's a study showing that people who tell lies, once they sort of get away with their lies, the parts of the brain that are responsible for that sense of guilt actually decrease in activity. It becomes easier and easier to tell lies because that sense of morality diminishes. Right? So your brain is looking for that alignment between intentions, words, and actions, or trying to predict actions. So the tonality is very important. Now, what that tonality tells you is, are they actually genuinely feeling what they're feeling? Or saying what they're saying. And this is actually manifests itself in music. So your voice has effectively one octave. And if you're well trained, maybe one and a half. And if you're really well trained, maybe two octaves. Well, music is effectively the extension of the human voice. Think about a piano. The piano has 8 octaves. The piano is effectively the extension of your voice into 8 octaves. Well, the voice is about expressing emotion. Well, now with music, we can express even more emotion. But again, the emotion that music expresses is tied evolutionarily, in terms of your brain, to the human voice. So if you ever wondered why, when you hear that major chord, dun 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 dun, right, you feel that sense of closure or certainty, the reason is because the human voice, when it's speaking with that sort of reassurance and certainty, when it feels it, it's speaking in effectively a major chord. But when it's speaking with uncertainty, maybe even distress and fear, it's actually using the tonality that is very similar to a minor chord. So when you're listening to music in major and minor chords, your evolved brain, because again, you're listening through the world, not just through your own experience, but through the experience of your ancestors, you're hearing that underlying sense of distress or that underlying sense of closure. And that's why you're feeling that sense of distress or closure, because your brain is saying, this associated in the past with actually increased certainty in the future or increased uncertainty in the future. So that's one of the reasons why we are so drawn to the human voice in the same way we're similarly drawn to the face, because we're trying to predict the future based on the information we're being presented, but in particular, the authenticity of that information. So often we're thinking about how we receive the world, how we consume the world. So when you think about this, it helps you also understand how you can actually be contributing to that world and the type of authenticity in the information that you're presenting, not just what you say and not just how you say it, but also whether or not there's authenticity and alignment of those two in order for you to be actually reliable and predictable in the future, because that's what people are looking for and that's what you're looking for. Thank you very much.